This is the TV Booth Podcast.
Hello again, thanks for listening to episode 5 of the TV Booth Podcast. I'm Rob Francis, and my guest today has over 30 years experience under his belt in broadcasting and live entertainment. He'll be best known as the host of the late-night ITV game show Quizmania, and as a presenter on Price Drop TV. He's also been the warm-up man for many shows including Countdown, The X Factor, and Stars in Their Eyes. I am delighted to welcome Greg Scott to the TV Booth Podcast.
Hello, I'm Greg Scott, and you're listening to the TV Booth Podcast.
Greg, it is a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you.
Well, don't say that to begin with, because I might be a disappointment. I don't know how this is going to go. You know, so at the end, if it's been all right, then say it's been a pleasure. But, let's park that for a moment.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, thanks for agreeing to be on the podcast anyway.
You're very, very welcome.
Good to hear. I've been waiting to chat with you for a very long time, and I thought you were the perfect guest for this. So,
do you know, that's funny. That's what the police said the other day when they came to my house. It was, exactly those words.
Oh, we're going to have some fun here, I think. I think we're going to have some fun. So let's, oh my word. Right, let's start at the beginning of your life. Did you always want to work in the entertainment industry?
Well, that wasn't the beginning of my life. The beginning of my life, it was dark, and then it was suddenly bright. Sorry, no, I'll behave myself. What was the question again? Did I always? Yes, I always did, because my mum and dad were in showbiz, so it was the only kind of work I really knew. So I followed them in. I just sort of went into showbiz with them. And then branched off on my own, and that was it. I suppose, had they been undertakers, I would have been burying people now. And but that's it. That's the reason I went into showbiz.
Absolutely. Growing up as a child, who were your television idols? Who did you admire?
Some people would say I haven't grown up. Oh, good Lord. I mean, I suppose as a kid, because I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, it has to be the classic names. I mean, your Bob Monkhouse, he was just God for me. He was incredible. Brucey, Bruce Forsyth was marvellous. I mean, the Generation Game with Bruce, it was perfect. I mean, not only Bruce, but the people that they used to get on it. They got people the people who were on the Generation Game in the 70s are the sort of contestants who wouldn't get a look in now, because they seem to cast people who are show-offs and wannabes and, hey, look at me. But they were just normal people, and that's what the magic was of the Gen Game in the 70s. I used to love all that. And Bruce knew exactly how to do it. He was fabulous.
Absolutely. He's much missed. He is missed by millions of people.
He is that. And this is the thing. Who is there to replace him? Who is there? The television's gone in a totally different direction, but I'm sure that we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about that later on.
Yes.
So, can you remember your very first TV appearance?
First time on telly, I was in the school choir on it was a regional BBC thing called A Grand Sing. Right. And it was hosted by Brian Truman. And it was school choirs battling against each other. And it was watched by about 30 people. And it was great because we got through the first round, and we got to we didn't get through on the semi-final. So that was the first time on telly. But the first paid job, pretty sure, 1995? Yeah, something like that, 1995. Yorkshire Television regional quiz show called On Your Marks, and I hosted that with Carol Vorderman. And we did all right. You know, we got 600,000 viewers in just the Yorkshire Television area, which was pretty good. But it was at the time where ITV was going through that transitional period of getting rid of most of the local shows, as were. it was just at the start of that. And even though we got great ratings, it was one of the shows that was chopped.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame, really. Because I did watch that on your marks, actually, on YouTube. Actually, it was quite an interesting show because it was a mix of general knowledge meets countdown in a way.
Yeah, there was. It was. It was a bit of a mishmash, if I'm honest. It was. Yeah, it is on YouTube. I don't know why I've put it. It was me who put it on there, and
Yeah.
you can see how green I am. I mean, it's shocking. If I'd had the chance to do it again, I would have done. But there was just no time because the budget was so low, which comes across very clearly. We didn't have time hardly for any rehearsals. We just did it. And I have to say as well, the edit job was rather a hatchety thing. It was the jump cuts, and sometimes I'd say something funny, and when we recorded the show, Carol would laugh and thank you, Greg. But there were times when it appeared on the screen like I said something funny, and it cut to Carol, and she'd be straight faced and. Just, oh my god! Maybe the audience were as well. Maybe the viewers were as well. I don't know, but oh no, the editing was dreadful on it, shocking. But it was fun, and it was certainly a baptism of fire anyway, because presenting with an established name like Carol, the pressure was on. But it was her and Richard her and Richard Whiteley. They got me that gig. Because it was the second series of On Your Marks, and the first series, Emily, she was a local newsreader, she co-hosted it with Carol, and she wasn't available for the second series. So Richard and Carol said to the production company, hey, we know this quite irritating bloke will do it for half the money. So they ripped my hand off and I did it. So there we are.
So did you do On Your Marks before you got the job on Countdown, or was that afterwards?
No, that was let's see. I started warming up on Countdown in 1990. So yeah, 5 years. Oh, right. I've been doing Countdown 5 years.
Okay, so how did you get that job?
Well, the Countdown job was so weird. I had never thought about doing audience warm-up, even though my dad had done it. My dad did the original New Faces in the early to mid 70s, and I'd never thought of doing warm-up myself, but I was always writing to producers of shows saying, oh, please put me on telly, I'd be very good at this and very good at that. So it was always the aim to appear on TV, but then I got a letter, because we didn't have email back then, not really. I got a letter from John Mead, the producer of Countdown, and all he said was, come across and watch a recording. So I did. And they used to record morning and afternoon. And I watched the morning recording. I thought, oh, fine. And then at lunch, John came up to me and he said, so you enjoying it? I said, yeah, fine. Yeah, it's great. It's really good. He said, do you see our warm-up man, Graham? I said, yeah. He said, well, he's leaving. Do you fancy it? And I didn't give it a moment's thought. I said, oh, yeah. It was just something to get a shoe in to telly. He said, right, well, this afternoon, do it. You do the warm-up this afternoon. Oh, okay. And my knees turned to jelly, my stomach started quivering. But I did it. I did it, and I ended up there for 13 years doing the warm-up. It was amazing.
And during your time on the program, you were actually responsible for one of my favorite TV bloopers. You were, of course, the hand inside the letters box on Countdown. What made you do that?
It was well, number one, I'm evil. And we'd come back from a lunch break, and I was just walking around the back of the set, and I could see there was this gap, there was this hole you could get your hand down. So I thought, oh, that's got to be done. So I suggested to John, the producer, I said, John, there's a chance here for some TV gold. Why don't we do it? So I explained my idea, and he said, okay. So occasionally there's pickups on Countdown. There's retakes. So we told Carol, or they told Carol, we just got to retake the first few letters from a letters game. So that's what they did. Said it was going to be a retake, and then bam, grabbed her hand, and then she was peeled off the ceiling. She never really forgave me. Never really. I tell you what, there's a lovely story with this. It made a program in America called The World's Greatest Ever TV Bloopers, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And one day, about 2 years after this happened, Carol came up to me in the studio and she said, "This is for you." She handed me an envelope. I had no idea what it was, no idea. So I opened it and there was a check for £400. I said, "What's this?" And she said, "Well, you know that what you did to me?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, it's been on this show in America and they sent me the royalties and it's only fair that you had half of it." Bloody hell. Right. Wow. So, I got £400 for making Carol Vorderman find out what colour fear was. It was
excellent.
Marvellous. God bless her. God bless her.
Oh,
no, it was really kind.
I love Carol Vorderman. I love her. She's lovely. One of the greatest moments on Countdown, well, it wasn't even broadcast on Countdown. It has to be the moment when Richard Whiteley got his gotcha.
Oh.
Absolute television gold. I think it was the highlight of my childhood. Were you involved in that in any way?
Oh, involved in it in so much as I knew. I was one of only a few people that knew it was going on. It was weird. We were sent from the Knowles House party production team. I say we were sent. The Countdown was sent. This list of things that they wanted to do. So they start with round one with something fairly silly, and it got sillier and sillier and sillier round by round. And we read through it and we thought, okay, by the fourth or fifth thing, he's going to twig it. He's going to twig that something's amiss here. No. And it was, even when Noel came out at the end with the actual gotcha trophy, it still didn't quite twig it. It was just, honestly, the whole thing in reality lasted about 70 minutes. But I normally with the Countdown, I used to stand at the side of the audience. With this one, I stood with them because as this gotcha was going on and on, the audience was starting to twig that you could hear, Noel Edmonds, gotcha. So I had to stand with the audience and just, shush. Okay, you've got it, but let's see him stew in his own juices. But it was marvelously done. The people who played the contestants, the actors who played the contestants, they'd been there, the contestants, or actors as they were, for 2 days, weighing up the studio, weighing up Richard, familiarising with the show, because, there was a chance that they might not have been familiar with it. They might not have been regular viewers. And they were incredible, even to the point of acting like a Countdown contestant. We know what Countdown contestants are generally like. They're a bit geeky, they're a bit quiet, they're a bit they're inward rather than outward. And the work that went into it was incredible, but it really paid off. It was a marvelous thing to be at, to attend, to be in the presence of.
Talking about the contestants,
yes,
about 8 years ago, a certain Greg Scott was a contestant on the program.
I was.
How did you be a contestant?
Well, Damien, the producer, I was while I was the warm-up for the last 4 or 5 years of being the warm-up, I was the standby contestant. So if anybody didn't turn up, then, or if they were short, I would have gone on and been, because over time I used to sit at the back and play along, and I got quite handy, I thought.
Yeah.
I said to Damien, I'm happy to be the standby contestant, so that was great. Never happened. So about 7-8 years after I left, I said to Damien, "Oh, come on, get us on. Let me be a contestant. Let me show everybody my word and number skills." So he went, "Oh, all right, anything for a quiet life." So on I went, but I think he deliberately put me on with someone who was, he was just a brilliant player. He was a professor of mathematics at, I think, Bristol University. So the numbers games were absolutely, it was hopeless trying to beat him on those. But the final score was something like 87-59. I came second, Rob. That's what I'm saying. I came second. I got me goodie bag. Which is, that's something else I never got in my time working on the show. So I was quite happy with that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. A friend of mine was on Countdown a couple of weeks ago and got beaten by an Octo champ. So,
good Lord. You see, you can hold your head high there, though. You can say, well, they were an Octo champ. What can I do?
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's no shame in that. No shame in that.
Absolutely. Do you still watch Countdown these days with Nick and Rachel?
Oh Lord! My in-laws who live next door. Yes, they live next door. They watch it. They're avid watchers. They love the game. When I'm round there at 2:10, yeah, I'll watch it with them. It's not the same, is it? No. If you watch on YouTube the old Richard and Carol days, it's a different show. The warmth is there, the friendliness and everything. Nick, for me, bless him, nice bloke and everything, and I've stood in as warm up a few times when he's been presenting, but there's no, he phones it in. There's, he does what's required and no more. And for me, it's lost its sparkle. It's almost like sometimes Rachel is crying out for something to bounce off and to have fun with, but she never gets it, and she's just an accessory who puts the letters up and does the numbers, and it's a shame. It's a shame. It could be more than it is, but it's not. And people still watch it. It's getting around 400,000 viewers on average in the afternoon, which I suppose is okay, but it's not the show it was.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I do agree. I think
mate.
when Richard Whiteley passed away, the show it's not been the same since then. It's he is very sadly missed.
Do you want to know the last text that Richard Whiteley sent to me? He was watching me on Price Drop TV, and all I got was a 2-word text saying "camp bugger." It's just camp bugger. And that was it.
Yeah.
That was the last I ever heard from him.
Yeah,
that's something to cherish, isn't it?
Yeah, that sums you up to a T, I think.
yeah, fair enough. No arguing with that. Yeah.
Lovely. So let's move on to Price Drop TV. You presented hours and hours of live television. How was that compared to being a warm-up man?
You see, it's a very... Shopping TV gets derided, doesn't it? And there's a stigma attached to it. It's the toughest presenting gig. It really is. You go on there, you've got to do so much prep, particularly with Price Drop TV, because instead of, you watch the QVCs of this world or the Ideal Worlds, and they'll do like 2 or a maximum of 3 products an hour. And on a 3.5 hour shift on Price Drop TV, you could do up to 30 products. And you had to learn all about them, the ins and outs and everything. So there was all the prep. And okay, you had somebody in your ear. I don't really like earpieces at all. And I used to ask the producers not to give me as much as they gave others. Not to show off or anything. It's just that was my preference. But that was one tough aspect of it. But also, as well as having to present a TV show, you've got sales figures to meet. And if it's a slow night, let's say, there were so many times that I'd be up against, the X Factor or something, you know. And at the time when I was on Price Drop TV, the X Factor was a ratings juggernaut. And you knew that your audience wasn't going to be as big as usual, but you'd still have the same amounts of stuff to shift. And to see the figures, to see the amounts go down so slowly, it was, you know, you had to be smiley, you had to be friendly, you had to do the job, but you were dying inside. You know, it was just a case of, oh, please let this end, please. It could be a very, very tough gig. It was an experience, and to be fair, if you can do that, you can do anything. There were some fantastic presenters on there, absolutely amazing, and why they haven't gone on to, I'm not including myself in this, but why other people I work with there haven't gone on to bigger and better things. I was going to say I don't know why, but I think I do. As I said earlier, there's a stigma attached to shopping TV, and dare I say, a certain snobbery. People will look down on shopping TV presenters because it's shopping TV, but until you've done it, don't knock it. It is the toughest gig.
You've done your shopping TV, then you moved on to Quiz TV as one of the hosts of the very, very popular Quizmania.
I mean, that was extraordinary, the way that came about, because I actually left Price Drop because it was doing my head in. There was a lot of pressure, and it was affecting me. It was affecting me. Tried not to let it show on screen, but it was getting to me. So I left, and I had the blessing of my wife. She said, okay, if you're that unhappy, you know, go for it. I didn't have anything to go to, Rob. There was nothing lined up. There was nothing, but I was that desperate to get out of Price Drop that I just said, no, enough is enough. Incredibly, 2 weeks after that, I got a phone call from Chuck and Debbie, who were the creators of Quizmania, and they said, fancy coming to work for us? Yeah, okay. And it was at a time when Quiz TV was just starting to explode in the way it did. So that was that. It was just a random phone call 2 weeks after I left Price Drop, and it was a blessing. It really was.
Did you have any unexpected moments, any bloopers or anything from Quizmania?
Oh, good Lord! I mean, this was the magic of it for me. I had, you know, again, the industry will look at Quizmania. It was a phone-in quiz. Again, it's a genre that a lot of people will look down on. For me, it was the best presenting gig in the world, simply because it was live, and you never knew what was going to happen. You never knew when that phone rang, who was going to be on the end of the phone, what state they were going to be in, and what they were going to say. And that for me is exciting. That is a thrill. But I suppose that the blooper as such, that you probably know the one I'm going to mention, was May from Scotland.
Yeah.
She was the one who phoned up and just volunteered the information that she had no legs. I didn't there was, honestly, the answer, for those who don't know, we predetermined an answer on name a job in a hospital. And the answer that we predetermined was nurse. Oh, it was real brain busting stuff, this, you know. But she went for doctor. She said, is it doctor? I said, no. And she said, just out of the blue, I think it's the doctor that cut my legs off. I have no legs. And it was just so left field. It was so out of the blue and unexpected. You know, okay, I'm hamming it up in being speechless. I'm hamming it up on camera, but I really was. What do you say to that? What do you say? I mean, you know, do you try and make a joke of it? Do you go, oh, sorry, and bring the whole thing down? And I just didn't know what to do. And that for me, I mean, that was just what, there was one guy who he admitted quite happily that he was smoking a spliff while he was talking to me. There was a Greek lady who was flirting, more than flirting with me. There was and there was, because it was live, there was certain people. The guy who gave his answer as, well, it wasn't an answer, he just phoned up to say wanker. I think it was directed at me. I'm pretty sure it was directed at me, but again, it was one of those things that I couldn't deny. I can be from time to time, I admit it. But it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And when we got the call to go on ITV, that was extraordinary. No one expected it. But it happened. And we had a very, very... It was just an extraordinary few months. It really was.
Did Quizmania end because of the controversy surrounding the phone-in scandals, or did it just end naturally?
Couple of reasons why it came to end. Number one, Michael Grade came to ITV, and he was not a fan of the genre. He didn't like it. He thought he was a bit too down market. When you look at ITV nowadays, the sort of thing that's on ITV and ITV2 and all that lot, it's World in Action by comparison. But there was that. Michael Grade wasn't a fan, but also there was problems with phone-in competitions on Ant and Dec's Takeaway and This Morning and other flagship shows. And ITV needed to show to Ofcom that they were taking action. And unfortunately, the action that they took was to axe the ITV Play label. With that, Quizmania went, and the Debbie King show. Debbie went on to have her own little thing, her own program. It lasted one edition before ITV. It was such a sudden announcement. They said, "Okay, we're stopping." And poor Debbie, she got all excited because she had her own program, and it lasted one edition. I've got it on DVD.
Possibly the shortest running game show on record.
I think you're probably right, but that's the sort of luck that I normally have. But poor Debbie, she was a bit gutted, and understandably so. But there we are. That's the business. You never know. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Talking of game shows, actually, you've been you've recorded several pilot game shows. What was the best one you recorded, in your opinion?
Well, there's a show that runs in France. It's a daily show called Hold On. Well, in English, it's called Hold On to Your Seat. In French, it's called or something. And it's great because it's got a narrative that runs through it, and you have to watch every day to see how the format itself is weighted very heavily in favour of the champion. And to knock the champion out, you really have to go some. So you tune in every day. Is he going to go today? Is she going to go today? Is this going to be the day that they get beaten? But it's a lovely mechanic, and very like Strike It Lucky, Strike It Rich with Mr. Barrymore. There was a lovely part at the start of the show where you'd have a bit of banter and a bit of fun with the contestants as well. And so I did the English-speaking pilot of that, so they could pitch it to English-speaking nations. And I believe that they did pitch it to ITV, and they did make their own pilot with Ben Shepherd host. Oh, Ben Shepherd did one, and Michael Ball did another, but it was never commissioned. I think it's a tremendous show, and I think now with the absence of the Jeremy Kyle show in the 9:25 slot, I personally think it would be a magnificent show to go in there. There's no huge money. I mean, the contestant who wins normally wins between £1,500 and £2,000, but they build up. I mean, because it's weighted in the champion's favour, they can win day after day after day and 50, 60, 70, £80,000, so that's the thing to keep you watching. I think it's a tremendous format, and it's on YouTube. Hey, it's on YouTube, so we'll
put a link in the show notes so people can watch it and see just how good it is. So you have been extremely outspoken in the last few months and years on the current state of television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Not good, is it, really?
It's difficult because as soon as I post stuff, I regret it because I'm aware that some people will think it's me being bitter because I've never had the break that I've wanted. Is there bitterness in it? No, not bitterness. Sometimes I admit there's a little bit of jealousy. Like as we speak now, they're recording I don't think Alan Carr's epic game show, and they're recording that in Manchester. And today they're recording Strike It Lucky. So Alan's doing all these shows that I would dream of hosting, all the old, Family Fortunes, and what else was there? Play Your Cards Right and Bullseye, shows that would be the absolute zenith for me. So no, I'm not bitter. I do get jealous sometimes, but nobody speaks out. Nobody speaks out about these programs that are on. And I'm talking about all the reality shows. I'm talking about, and I will name names, people like Gemma Collins, who, I mean, okay, again, people are going to look on me and go, oh, he's just bitter. But I've got to say, she has no discernible. What does she do? What does she actually do apart from fall down holes on stages and fall over on the ice? She doesn't come across as a particularly pleasant person. She does have her fans somehow. What they are fans of, I do not know. But ITV, as we record this, there's promos for her new program left, right, and centre on ITV, like she's some sort of, like it's you'd get years ago with Morecambe and Wise, proper talented professional entertainers. And I just hope. Well, it's too late now. It's too late for it to go full circle and for me to have a bite of the cherry. But this is the thing. With Netflix and Amazon Prime and everything like that, you would think that TV companies, particularly ITV, would look at their figures, they'd look at their viewing figures and say, right, we've got to do something to fight back. And all they do is chuck on reality stuff. In the main, reality stuff. The figures aren't there. It's not working. So why don't they try to do something proper? I know there are going to be people rolling their eyes at what I'm saying, and people are going to be thinking that I'm living in the past, but it's time. It's time to do it. It's time to look at getting professionals on again. There's nothing, Oh, it depresses me, Rob. It depresses me.
I know it depresses you. And even when all these new shows, it's the same presenters every single time. And I think you know who I'm going to mention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all the people from a certain. There's a management company, and they have a stranglehold on the business. And unless you can get with them, it is so difficult to get a gig. Is that the way it should be? I mean, there was a time when you'd have talent scouts. There was a time when there was people who would look at demo tapes, as they were back in the day, and they genuinely look out for the very best. And surely, if you're looking for someone to front a television show on a network on the biggest platforms, you should be going for what is the best, and not simply because they are with a certain management company. Some of them are very good, of course they are, but there are some people, and you watch them and you think, are they really the best? Are they really? Because that's what should be on television, just the best.
Absolutely.
And You see, again, there's going to be people thinking, well, by the sound of it, Greg's thinking that he's the best and he should be on. No, that's not what I'm saying. I, as a TV viewer, I want the best. And I've worked with so many presenters over the years who have never had a look in, but my goodness me, they could wipe the floor with some people who are on television on a regular basis.
At the time of recording this, the lineup is being announced for Strictly Come Dancing this year. What are your thoughts on the lineup so far this year?
It's amazing, isn't it? Amazing in an unamazing way. Is unamazing a word? I don't know. There's some extraordinary choices, and I don't know what it is, whether A, B, and even C-list celebrities are saying, no, the Strictly curse is something, and I'm not prepared to take that risk. Or, I don't know, but I can't even remember their names. There's a chap off CBBC, there's some woman who lives in a stately home. I just, if you're going to do it like this, where you're going to put in celebrities that very few people have heard of, why don't you make it a show where it's members of the public who maybe have never had any dance experience before, and yet you follow their journey to becoming a fantastic ballroom dancer? I don't know. I mean, obviously these people are going to be elevated to a certain level of fame, and one or two of them might come into the back door and take some more presenting gigs. It's a weird old state of affairs, this year's Strictly. I've been waiting for a huge name to be announced. I think the biggest name to be announced at the moment is Catherine Tildesley from Corrie, or formerly from Corrie. She's going to be in the new BBC sitcom Scarborough. I'm in episode 5 for about 10 seconds. Just get the plug in there. Hopefully it'll be hopefully the format is strong enough to carry it through. But the casting this year has been, there's a lot of raised eyebrows from a lot of people.
Well, I have to say, the one I'm going to be supporting Mike Bushell this year.
I wonder why.
For obvious reasons.
Yes. No, he's a good lad, Mike, and he should be good value for money.
Oh, absolutely, especially with his dad dancing, and I have witnessed that close up.
And he's such a clumsy old bugger that he'd probably fall over a few times as well.
Yeah, most probably, yeah.
Bless him. No, we wish him well.
Great guy. And if you haven't listened to that podcast episode yet, it's episode 4. You can listen to it now. It's a great chat with Mike. Anyway, yes, definitely. Let's move on. You are a fan of television logos and presentation.
Oh, yeah.
What would you say? What's your favourite TV logo from over the years?
Oh, goodness. I think there's 2 different ones for 2 different reasons. I think aesthetically, I'd have to go for the Thames TV one. I mean, that was it was the one, wasn't it, to look at and all that. But I think overall, my favourite was London Weekend Television, because whenever you heard the theme and whenever the logo came up on screen, you knew that there was something quality coming on. I mean, entertainment programming has always been my thing. For me, nobody made entertainment programming like London Weekend Television. So for that reason, that was my favourite. Okay, it maybe wasn't the cleverest of logos design-wise, but no. Every time you heard the LWT theme, you knew you were going to get something incredible, really.
Excellent. So do you have any advice for anyone who wants to get into television?
Yeah, don't do it. Oh, no, that's silly. Yeah, try, obviously. What, you mean as a presenter, or?
Or just, yeah, as a presenter.
Well, as a presenter, I would say, obviously, do it make sure you've got something to back up, in case it doesn't come off. Hopefully it will. But there's since I was of an age where I was looking to make my way, things have changed, obviously, and there are different ways to get into being a TV presenter, like appearing on reality shows and whatever, starting your own YouTube channel. You know, if you can hit a run on YouTube, obviously producers' ears are going to prick up, and you're going to get people looking at you. Don't make it. This is my advice. Don't make it your sole goal. Make sure, you know, whilst you're chasing the dream, that you have something to back yourself up, because that's something that I didn't really. I mean, okay, yeah, I've always had something else to do, but I probably chased it too much. And yes, I am using past tense. The chase is now over. If I got a phone call out the blue to say, would you like to try out for this? Then yeah, of course I would. But I've given up chasing it now. It's I'm nearly 51, and it's a young person's game. And you know, I whilst I believe I appeal to all ages, including that beloved 16 to 34 demographic that's so precious to TV execs. I just feel that I won't possibly get a look in nowadays, which is a shame. But as I say, I wait in hope that somebody who the dream is that somebody who was a researcher when Quizmania was on is going to make it as a TV exec, and they enjoyed Quizmania, and they'll go, oh, let's give the old swine a go. So that's the dream.
The dream that will never die. Greg, it has been an absolute delight to talk to you. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Sorry, I've rabbited on a bit with a few of my answers, but I've got a lot to say for myself, Rob.
It's not a problem, Greg. Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Cheers.
Thank you to Greg Scott for a great podcast chat. You can visit his website at gregscott.tv. He's also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. All the links will be available through the show notes on our website at tvboothpodcast.co.uk, where if you would like to sponsor a forthcoming edition of the podcast, you are more than welcome to. Sponsorship starts at just £20 for a 15-second slot, or if you want a 30-second slot, it will cost £40. 50% of all money generated through the podcast sponsorship will go to the Diane Oxberry Trust, set up in memory of the former BBC Northwest presenter who died in January 2019. For now, though, that's it from this edition of the TV Booth podcast. I do hope you've enjoyed it. I'm Rob Francis. I'm off for a lie down. See you next time. Bye-bye.
The TV Booth podcast is hosted by Rob Francis. Copyright 2019.